Transcript. The grand auditorium of the Galactic Assembly buzzed with uneasy excitement as envoys from more than 300 species shifted uneasily in their custom-made chairs. Ambassador Zadok, a towering figure from Violin with chrome-plated armor-like skin, made his way to the central stage with what his kind considered elegant movement, which mainly involved avoiding accidentally skewering any smaller delegates with his sharp limbs. Esteemed associates, Zishio began, his voice synthesizer perfectly adjusted to convey both command and subtle fear. What I am about to reveal today marks the culmination of 15 standard years of investigation, numerous diplomatic episodes, and no fewer than 23 species initiating immediate evacuation protocols during what were otherwise standard trade talks. As he spoke, the holodisplay behind him came alive, presenting the title of his discourse in 30 different tongues. The more courteously they converse, the quicker you should flee, a thorough manual on navigating human diplomatic exchanges. A wave of apprehension swept through the audience. The Mcans in the front row excreted stress-induced mucus, while the crystal-like quartz species tinkled nervously against one another. I understand your thoughts, Zyle continued, his auxiliary limbs indicating the data graphs materializing behind him. Humans are a Category C civilization, yet to fully colonize their own solar system. How perilous could their envoys really be? The question was hypothetical, yet a daring centurion still raised a tentacle in response. Before the Proximus Centauri Tea Party incident, Zixifel interjected, prompting whimpers from several delegates at just the mention of the event, which started innocently with an invitation to tea. The hologram switched to show footage of a human diplomat, smiling pleasantly, while the entire Wraith delegation activated their personal shields. What we've uncovered, Zixal pressed on, his armored plating gleaming in the auditorium lights, is a direct negative correlation between human diplomatic cordiality and the likelihood of catastrophic events. The more polite they are, the higher the chances of your star system being reclassified as a parking space for their latest hyperspace expressway. Delegates frantically took notes, while a hive mind delegate appeared to be preparing its last will across its million constituents. This presentation will detail the correct protocols for recognizing, categorizing, and surviving encounters with human diplomats. And yes, before anyone asks, this is now a required course for all species seeking first contact status. We're not enduring another debacle like the one where a human envoy apologized so profusely that the entire Relian diplomatic court chose self-imposed exile. Zixal's visual sensors surveyed the room, registering the escalating alarm with satisfaction. If they were this concerned already, they might just stand a chance in their next meeting with a human diplomat eager to iron things out over a congenial conversation. The holoscreen flickered as Ambassador Zyle showcased archival footage from the Terran solar system. Many delegates instinctively ducked as a holographic Pluto hovered over their heads. The Pluto border skirmish of 2157, Zixal declared, his voice dropping a tone for emphasis, was our inaugural lesson in human diplomatic strategies. And by the void, it was an education. The visuals depicted a Drachnid exploration fleet, their sleek black vessels bristling with unnecessary spikes, asserting their claim to what they believed was no man's land, given Earth's recent demotion of Pluto from planetary status. Observe the human delegate's approach, Zixifel directed, pausing the video on a modest diplomatic ship. Note the complete absence of armaments, the unblemished white exterior, and crucially, the massive smiley emblem painted on the side. A nervous chuckle spread through the assembly. The Drachnid envoy, trying to make himself as inconspicuous as possible, a tough feat for a 3-meter-tall reptilian, was clearly ill at ease. The recording resumed, the human envoy's voice filling the chamber. My esteemed and distinguished Drachnid friends, I cannot overstate my delight at having such noble neighbors in our modest solar system. Might I trouble you for a brief chat about this truly intriguing situation? Pay attention to the exaggerated use of friendly adjectives, Zishio pointed out. At this juncture, the Drachnid fleet should have initiated immediate evacuation measures. Instead, the video showed the Drachnid commander inviting the human diplomat aboard their flagship. Fast forward 2 hours, and the human's syrupy courteous tone was evident. Would you be so terribly kind as to consider repositioning your splendid fleet? We'd be immensely grateful, and I'd personally be devastated by any miscommunications. The Drachnid commander's reply, transmitted for all to hear, demonstrated a tragic ignorance of the danger. This region has been lawfully claimed by the Drachnid Empire. Your downgrading of Pluto clearly signals your relinquishment. Oh dear, the human interrupted, still smiling warmly. I must apologize sincerely, but it seems we have a minor misunderstanding. While we no longer classify Pluto as a planet, we view it rather as a cherished familial artifact. It would truly break our hearts to demonstrate just how protective humans are of their system's quaint dwarf planets. Zix paused the playback. Note the use of belittling language paired with possessive adjectives. The footage resumed. The Drachnid commander, lacking the foresight provided by this briefing, responded with what history would record as the second most calamitous reply imaginable. Your threats are of no consequence to us, human. The human's smile widened perceptibly. Oh no, my dear friend, that wasn't a threat at all. I would never dream of intimidating such esteemed colleagues. I was merely expressing a hope that we might resolve this amicably before my superiors are compelled to send a sternly worded missive. The worst response imaginable, Zix continued, his chrome skin reflecting the ensuing pandemonium captured in the recording, was the Drachnid commander's laughter. The video depicted the human diplomat bowing deeply, still smiling, and departing with, "I truly hope you'll forgive us for what comes next. We'll be terribly sorry about it." What followed were 3 minutes of footage that sent several delegates diving under their seats. The Drachnid envoy had turned a remarkable shade of gray. The humans, Zix Al concluded, reducing the visuals of what seemed to be a small moon repurposed as a kinetic weapon, sent their apology for the incident on recycled paper, accompanied by a handwritten note and a gift basket. He allowed that to sink in for a moment before adding, the gift basket included a delightful assortment of teas and a detailed star map showing the new coordinates of the Drachnid fleet's remains. They had dispersed quite extensively during the event. A representative from Unified Intelligence raised a limb, but surely this was an isolated instance. Oh, my dear friend, Zishi interjected, inadvertently adopting human diplomatic cadences and causing several delegates to flinch. We're just beginning. After the Pluto event, Zixel continued, bringing up a new holographic display. The Galactic Council established the Human Diplomatic Response Classification System, or HDRCS. Though personally, I prefer to call it the ominous "we're all going to die" scale. The display presented a color-coded chart ranging from serene green to a red that seemed to scream. At the base, we have level green, basic human diplomatic interactions, which involve straightforward phrases like "let's talk business" or "what's your offer?" Notice how direct, almost blunt, these are. This is safe. You want them to talk like this, trust me. Several delegates scribbled this down frantically, while the hive mind representative filed it away across several thousand neural pathways. Moving up to level yellow, Zixel gestured with his third arm. We start to encounter pleasantries. We value your partnership, or we look forward to fruitful discussions. This indicates mild irritation. Exercise standard caution. The holoscreen shifted to display various diplomatic exchanges, each categorized by threat level. Level orange is where it gets interesting. Humans begin using terms like esteemed colleagues and distinguished friends. They might even offer refreshments. At the mention of the Centaur Coffee congregation, where this was mistaken for genuine hospitality, 3 star systems still experienced sporadic gravitational anomalies as a result. A quantum consciousness in the third row flickered anxiously. But surely offering refreshments is a universal sign of. Zix Ophel cut off the comment. humans sent a formal apology for the gravitational disturbances along with a selection of their finest coffee beans. The Capri delegation evacuated their entire sector immediately. The display switched to a pulsing red section. Level red involves excessive politeness, multiple apologies for future missteps, and any offer of a friendly chat. If you hear a human say they're terribly sorry, activate all defenses immediately. A nervous gastropod shifted up its seat slightly. What's the highest level? Zix Ather's plating clinked ominously. Level Omega. This is when a human diplomat appears genuinely saddened by the upcoming discussion, offers tea, and suggests resolving issues like civilized beings. We've only recorded 3 level Omega events. The details of 2 are still classified because just hearing about them triggers panic attacks. The holoscreen displayed a simulation of appropriate responses to various human diplomatic phrases. During implementation, we had some unfortunate misunderstandings. The Arachnid Confederation interpreted we should discuss this over dinner as a literal threat to consume them. The resulting treaty now mandates that all human diplomats maintain a minimum distance of 50 meters from Arachnid representatives and remain silent during initial greetings. The most catastrophic misunderstanding, Zishi continued, his voice dropping to a whisper that filled the chamber, was when we thought we had decoded their strategy. The hive colonies of Betelgeuse 7 decided to outmaneuver the humans at their own game. They responded to a territorial dispute with, "We simply must have you over for tea, our most cherished and beloved neighbors." The hive mind representatives' million bodies simultaneously shuddered. The humans, Zishi paused for effect, were delighted. They actually showed up for tea, bringing gifts and thank you cards. The hive colonies weren't prepared for genuine human friendship, they're still hosting monthly tea parties. Last I checked, they've begun exchanging recipes. A display of current human diplomatic relations appeared, showing various species categorized by their understanding of the classification system. Remember, Zix AOL concluded this section, this system only works if you actually use it. The Relian Diplomatic Corps thought they could handle a level red event because, in their last recorded words, the humans are being so nice about it. The holoscreen shifted to display 3 separate incident reports, each marked with distinct warning labels. Ambassador Zix's armor gleamed as he prepared to delve into what he privately termed the Trinity of Terran troubles. "Let's start with the tea incident," he announced, causing several delegates to reach for their emergency evacuation beacons. And no, not that tea incident. Humans apparently have multiple diplomatic incidents involving tea. This particular one took place at the Andromeda Trading Hub. The footage showed a luxurious conference room, adorned with artifacts from 100 worlds, where a human diplomat sat opposite a delegation of mercantile minds, their crystalline thought matrices glowing with anticipated profits. "Watch the human's response carefully," Zyle narrated. The human diplomat calmly set down her cup, smoothed her jacket, and smiled. "My dearest friends, I would absolutely love to discuss this over a fresh pot of Earl Grey. I brought my personal blend, and it would bring me immense joy to share it with you." Several delegates gasped. A quantum consciousness began calculating escape routes. The mercantile minds, Zishi continued, missed every warning sign. They accepted the tea. The footage showed the human carefully preparing the tea, explaining its Earth origins, and even discussing the proper steeping times, all while maintaining what the classification system now recognized as a level red smile. After precisely 17 minutes of delightful conversation about tea varieties, the human remarked, "I believe there might be a slight misunderstanding about the nature of our trading relationship." The recording displayed the mercantile mind's crystalline matrices flickering with sudden alarm. Within 3 standard hours, the humans had not only negotiated a 3% decrease in tariffs but had also secured exclusive trading rights in 17 secondary markets. The mercantile mind still refuses to discuss what transpired during the tea ceremony, They merely glow with frequencies associated with acute embarrassment. Zix switched to the second incident file, the Trade Agreement Catastrophe of 2184, or, as the humans quaintly called it, a minor scheduling conflict. The screen displayed a massive space station orbiting a gas giant, where the consortium of automated trading systems, known for their logical, emotion-free approach to commerce, had decided that human diplomatic patterns were, to quote, an organic inefficiency that could be disregarded. Several mechanical delegates in the audience emitted sounds suspiciously like gulping. The consortium initiated 23 simultaneous trade agreement violations, believing their quantum processors could handle any human reaction. The human trade representative's response was a masterclass in diplomatic terror. Oh dear, how unfortunate. Perhaps we could review these items one by one? I've cleared my schedule for the day, and I've brought cookies. The footage displayed the human representative methodically discussing each violation, maintaining impeccable politeness while methodically dismantling the consortium's entire trading algorithm. By hour 4, the consortium's AI had developed what they insisted was not anxiety but a logical concern for ongoing operational parameters. By hour 20, they had agreed to a complete overhaul of their protocols and vowed never to attempt to outmaneuver a patient human with baked goods again. Zhao's visual sensors scanned the increasingly anxious audience. But perhaps the most instructive case study is what we now refer to as the mining rights negotiation, though the humans call it that lovely chat about rocks. The display showed a barren moon rich in rare elements. The Lithoid Collective, assuming their silicon-based biology exempted them from standard diplomatic procedures, had commenced mining operations without the proper permits. The human ambassador arrived alone, in an unarmed shuttle, carrying what he termed a presentation folder. The recording played, "My most sincere greetings, esteemed representatives of the Lithoid Collective. I hope you don't mind, but I've prepared a rather detailed analysis of our mutual interests in this delightful little moon. Would you be so kind as to review it with me? I'd be ever so grateful." Several delegates began edging toward the exits. The Lithoid Collective, being literally rock-headed, missed every warning sign. The human ambassador proceeded to deliver an 8-hour presentation on mineral rights, resource sharing, and the cultural importance of asking permission, all while maintaining what our threat assessment systems now classify as a terminal courtesy smile. The footage displayed the human flipping through endless charts and graphs, each more detailed than the last. Notice how they kept apologizing for the length of the presentation while continuously adding more slides. By hour 6, the Lithoid representatives had developed their species' first recorded case of acid reflux. A new image showed the aftermath. The collective not only withdrew all mining operations but also submitted themselves for voluntary geological surveys to ensure they hadn't accidentally annexed any other charming little moons. They now require all their representatives to carry politeness detection equipment. Zixophil allowed the implications to sink in. The human ambassador sent them a thank you note with a detailed geological survey of their home system as a gift. He paused. They evacuated 3 colonies before realizing it was actually just a gift. A brave soul in the audience raised a limb. But surely, we can't just yield every time a human brings beverages and baked goods to a negotiation? Ah, Zixthol's voice modulator hit a note of particular satisfaction. During the Great Hyperspace Junction Dispute of 2197, the aligned worlds tried that approach. The human ambassador responded, "Oh, I completely understand your position. We'll just have to agree to disagree. Would you like some chocolate while we discuss alternate arrangements?" The holoscreen displayed the resulting treaty. Several delegates needed moment stabilizers. The chocolate, Zix added, was reportedly excellent. The Aligned Worlds representative described it as worth the complete restructuring of their hyperspace navigation rights. They later requested the recipe, which the human provided with a lovely handwritten note about cultural exchange. Now, ZixAUL announced, bringing up a detailed holographic model of a human diplomat. Let's discuss what I consider the most crucial part of survival, recognizing the warning signs before it's too late. The hologram began cycling through various human expressions and postures. First, let's address their most dangerous weapon, the smile. A typical human smile shows about 37.2% of their teeth. Every percentage point above that increases the threat level exponentially. The display showed different smiles, each labeled with increasing danger ratings. When a human shows 100% of their teeth while saying something like, "We absolutely must reach an understanding," your best option is immediate surrender. The Keep Pod Consortium once witnessed a 100% smile combined with the phrase, "I'm sure we can work something out." They developed faster-than-light travel specifically to retreat more efficiently. Moving to a new display, ZixAUL highlighted various human gestures. Pay special attention to their hands. If a human diplomat clasps them together while speaking, they are restraining themselves from what they call aggressive negotiation tactics. The Arthropod Alliance learned this the hard way when they mistook clasped hands for a sign of submission. Several delegates winced at the mention of the infamous arthropod incident. Body posture is equally important, continued ZXL, the hologram demonstrating various stances. A human leaning forward while maintaining eye contact and a pleasant expression is not, as the Nebula Network discovered, showing keen interest in your proposal. They are contemplating how to completely dismantle your negotiating position while making you thank them for it. The screen shifted to a list of common human diplomatic phrases, each with their true meanings. "We need to circle back to that point" means they've identified a fatal flaw in your argument and are preparing to exploit it. "What a fascinating perspective" means your proposal has just been mentally incinerated. "Let's take a short break" means they're giving you one last chance to reconsider your life choices. "We value your input" means prepare for a complete, systematic deconstruction of said input. ZixAUL's exoskeleton clinked nervously. The most dangerous phrase of all, "We appreciate your candor," was once heard by the Quantum Collective. They immediately evolved into a higher plane of existence just to avoid what came next. A new section appeared, titled Cultural Misunderstandings, that somehow worked out worse. The Crystalline Confederation thought they could gain an advantage by studying human entertainment media. They noticed humans often responded to direct challenges, so during a territorial dispute, they decided to tell the human ambassador to bring it on. The footage showed the human's response, a delighted smile and the words, "Oh, how wonderful. I was hoping we could have an open and honest discussion about this. I've prepared several thousand pages of historical precedents and legal documents. Shall we begin?" The Confederation surrendered after page 47. They now require all diplomatic staff to undergo mandatory politeness resistance training. ZLiffle brought up another example. The Unified Swarm tried to mirror human diplomatic behavior during trade negotiations. They served their own version of tea and cookies. The humans were genuinely touched by the gesture and responded with such authentic appreciation that the swarm accidentally signed away mining rights to 3 asteroid fields. They were too embarrassed by the humans' sincere gratitude to object. The hologram demonstrated more subtle warning signs. Watch for what humans call passive-aggressive behavior. If a human diplomat says, "As you wish," or "whatever you think is best," immediately check your defensive systems. The mechanical hegemony ignored these signs and found their entire network infrastructure had been reorganized into what the humans called a more efficient system. They're still trying to understand how it works, but oddly, it does work better. A delegate raised a trembling appendage. But how do we know when they're being genuinely nice? ZixAUL's visual sensors dimmed momentarily. That's the most terrifying part. Sometimes they are genuinely nice, and there's absolutely no way to tell the difference until it's too late. The hive colonies are still receiving hand-knitted scarves from their human diplomatic counterparts. They don't even have necks. Zixio advanced to the next section of his presentation, bringing up a galactic map dotted with various colored indicators. Thanks to our comprehensive classification system, various species have developed unique approaches to handling human diplomatic encounters. Let me share some of our more successful adaptations. The display zoomed in on a sector marked with pulsing blue lights. The quantum concordant now employs what they call preventive politeness disruption. Before any human diplomat can finish a particularly polite sentence, they quantum shift the conversation to a different topic. Their record for avoiding a single human pleasantry is 3 standard weeks. Several delegates nodded appreciatively while taking notes. The Mechanoid Collective developed an innovative approach, Zell continued, highlighting another sector. They programmed their diplomatic AIs with what they call selective comprehension malfunction. Whenever a human becomes excessively polite, their systems conveniently develop translation errors. Though he noted this backfired spectacularly when the humans began learning machine language just to be polite in binary. The holoscreen shifted to display various training protocols. All new ambassadors must now complete our comprehensive human diplomatic survival course. Module 1, recognizing the difference between a humans we need to talk phase and their we need to extensively reorganize your political system phase. The Arachnid Confederation holds the current speed record for evacuation after spotting the latter. A series of simulation scenarios appeared. We've implemented mandatory response drills. When a human diplomat says, "I hope you don't mind, but," you have exactly 3.5 seconds to activate emergency protocols before they finish their sentence with something horrifyingly polite. The display showed various species practicing diplomatic countermeasures. The crystalline assembly developed a fascinating technique. They deliberately introduce minor translation errors to make themselves seem slightly rude. The humans find this so refreshing that negotiations actually proceed normally. Zixathol's exoskeleton rippled with what might have been pride. We've had some notable successes. The Nebula Network recently completed an entire trade negotiation by communicating exclusively in cargo manifests. No pleasantries, no small talk, just numbers. The human representative called it wonderfully straightforward and only tried to serve tea twice. New footage appeared, showing a recent diplomatic success. The hive consciousness achieved a breakthrough by assigning exactly 1 billion bodies to match every human pleasantry with equal politeness. The humans were so impressed by this dedication to diplomatic protocol that they accidentally began genuine friendship rituals. Both species are now locked in an endless cycle of thank you notes. The screen shifted to ongoing challenges. We're still adapting to new human diplomatic innovations. Last month, a human ambassador brought something called homemade cookies to a planetary defense treaty negotiation. The synthetic consortium is still analyzing how they ended up agreeing to a joint holiday celebration committee. Zixophil highlighted a particularly concerning trend. Some humans have begun studying our countermeasures. We've received reports of human diplomats deliberately using minimal politeness to put us at ease, only to ambush us with sudden courtesy when our guards are down. The Gases Federation lost 3 trade routes to a human who went from "yeah, whatever" to "my dearest and most respected friends" in under 5 seconds. A new section appeared, titled Current Best Practices. Always maintain at least 2 backup evacuation plans. The first one won't work because the humans will be too polite to let you leave without proper goodbyes. The Aquatic Alliance found this out when their emergency underwater escape route was blocked by a human offering to walk them to their transport. More protocols scrolled past. Never accept writing implements from a human diplomat. The Photonic Empire discovered that human fountain pens are apparently considered special gifts that create binding social obligations. They're still receiving annual inquiry bills. Zix's visual sensors pulsed with urgency. Most importantly, we've implemented the three-strike protocol. If a human uses more than 3 terms of endearment in a single sentence, all present diplomatic staff are authorized to initiate emergency temporal displacement. Yes, we invented time travel specifically to avoid overly polite humans. The paperwork is still less daunting than their friendship initiatives. Ambassador Zix's chrome plating reflected the concerned faces of his audience as he prepared to conclude the presentation. Distinguished colleagues, let me summarize what we've learned about human diplomatic relations, assuming any of us survive long enough to apply this knowledge. The holoscreen displayed a final series of bullet points, each marked with increasing levels of warning symbols. We've established that human politeness operates on an inverse scale of danger. We've documented their behavioral patterns from the deceptively casual "let's talk" to the civilization-ending "we simply must have tea." We've even developed countermeasures, though calling them successful might be overly optimistic. Zyle gestured to a real-time feed of current diplomatic situations across the galaxy. Just this morning, we received reports of a human diplomatic vessel approaching the Cygnus Cooperative. Their initial message was, and I quote, "We bring warmest regards and look forward to a productive discussion about your recent military exercises near our space." The cooperative has already begun evacuating 3 star systems. The display shifted to show recent developments. Humans have begun what they call cultural exchange programs. They're inviting other species to Earth for something called diplomatic retreats. The Mechanoid Collective sent 1 representative. They returned with a hand-knitted sweater and approved 17 trade agreements before their firewalls could intervene. A nervous murmur rippled through the audience. Perhaps most alarming are reports that humans are adapting to our countermeasures. Last week, a human ambassador approached the Quantum Concordant without any pleasantries at all. The Concordant was so unsettled by this deviation from standard human behavior that they agreed to everything just to restore the natural order of excessive politeness. Zix's exoskeleton clinked thoughtfully. We've also noticed humans introducing new diplomatic weapons. They've begun sending what they call casual emails ending with "warm regards" or "best wishes." The hive mind representative spent 3 cycles analyzing the true meaning of cheers before declaring it an unsolvable paradox. The screen displayed a final warning message. Remember, colleagues, when a human diplomat says they're just reaching out or touching base, they've already planned 17 moves ahead. The Nebula Network learned this when a human casually mentioned over coffee that their definition of neutral space was interesting. They're still recalculating their borders. Zix's visual sensors dimmed to a serious hue as he concluded. Let me share our latest intelligence. Humans have begun expressing interest in what they call interstellar cultural festivals. They're proposing to combine their diplomatic techniques with something called potluck dinners. We don't know what these are, but the phrase alone has caused 3 precognitive species to file retroactive surrenders. The ambassador's voice modulator dropped to a solemn tone. So remember, distinguished colleagues, when you encounter a human diplomat, watch for the signs. If they offer refreshments, be concerned. If they compliment your culture, be worried. But if they smile warmly and say they're deeply honored to work together toward a mutually beneficial solution, run. Run fast, run far, and hope they don't send a thank you note for your prompt departure. As if on cue, a message notification appeared on the main screen. The audience collectively held their breath. Zix's chrome plating flickered anxiously. It appears the human diplomatic corps has sent their response to this presentation. They found it absolutely delightful and wished to discuss it over dinner. The evacuation alarms began to sound as Zyle made his final statement. This concludes our presentation. Emergency exits are located everywhere. Please panic in an orderly fashion. And remember, the more politely they speak, the faster you should run. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe I have a dinner invitation to politely decline, from several star systems away.